Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liberal Tarot. I'm Sherry, and I'm a blue dot living in a red state, utilizing Tarot to help us navigate these very interesting times we have going on here in the United States. So, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. The focus of today's reading is going to be the health of the GOP. And I'm actually going to divide this into two parts. Part one, which is going to be this reading, is looking at the House and the Senate. Part two is going to be looking at the Trump administration. And I've been doing a series of readings looking at the health of. So I've had the health of the Democratic Party, the health of the courts, and now this two-part of the GOP. So in looking at the House and the Senate, the House has been passing some interesting acts here. One is the No Rogue Rulings Act, and this is about addressing nationwide injunctions. And there is that, they have not liked having these nationwide injunctions put on by the judges, and so the House has passed this No Rogue Ruling Act, and then they also passed the SAVE Act, which is going to disenfranchise millions of voters. Neither of these are expected to pass in the Senate. Okay. And then you had the recent spending bill, the big, beautiful bill and tax cuts that, Trump wants. The House didn't have the votes. And whenever I first saw that, I was like, what? They don't have the votes? And then when I read it, it was like, yeah, the Freedom Caucus wouldn't vote for it because the cuts weren't horrendous enough. And yes, my representative was one of those because, of course, blue dot, red state. It sucks. So, yeah, and then they finally got the assurances that they needed to be able to pass that. So, Maga Mike is kind of having a hard time over there. The majority is so thin that he can only afford just a few people not voting, and he can't get anything done. And so yeah, this time it was the Freedom Caucus that said it wasn't horrendous enough. I'm kind of wanting to know, where are those moderate Republicans that are saying it's too horrendous? And then you also have over in the Senate, the reason this can pass is because Chuck Schumer said that the CR could pass with a simple majority. So I don't think that the filibuster is going to be an option for this, these spending cuts and these tax cuts. So what I want to look at is the GOP in the House and the Senate, are they going to be able to keep it together to continue pushing forward just all this horrendous stuff? Okay. So let's look at, I'm going to look at the House first. Let's just do a base reading looking at the House. What is going on with the MAGA House at Congress? Okay. As always, this is for entertainment purposes only. So looking at the House of Representatives MAGA, what are they going to be able to keep it together? Between all of their different factions there. Okay, and with that, Queen of Wands, somebody's not, this, a female coming up here in the very center with this wand. So big messaging, big bully club here, somebody with a big loud mouth. I'm wondering if this is a Trader Green. And, it's like they say a lot, but what are they actually saying is not there's not much substance there. And as I said, Marjorie Trader Green there, she is a lot of talk and not a lot of substance. This is somebody who, once again, a lot of messaging here, changes about messaging. But this isn't someone who's just ready to go forward or racing into battle. It's a lot of talk. Okay, so when I was asking specifically about the House here, the House of Representatives and the Queen of Wands, queens are also somebody who they have power, but they're not in the highest position of power. So this is a very tiny needle that Mike Johnson is having to thread to try to keep his coalition together, because any defectors, and he no longer has the votes that he needs. Okay, so this is like being really careful about what he has to say to get the votes that he needs. putting it all out there on the table. This is also a card of manipulation. I don't know if he's as bad as Kevin McCarthy at making all these wild promises. It hasn't come to light yet. Okay, but this is like promising whatever he needs so that he can have the votes that he wants. And things, behind the scenes, under the dark of night. Okay, the moon card, not everything's out in the open. And both of these cards together, a lot of illusion. Okay, I don't know if Maggot Mike doesn't follow through on some promises, he's going to get McCarthy there. So he's this is quite the little tightrope he's trying to stay balanced on here. Queen of Swords. I wonder, because this is somebody taking decisive action, I wonder if this isn't somebody going to try to remove him as speaker, and irrational decisions moving forward. I wonder, because this is like some major action that is, these two cards are very different than these two cards. Okay. The way these are coming up here, let's just look at these real quick. So you have this, we're saying a lot of stuff, but we're not really saying or doing much of substance here, because we have to, there's this tightrope. So it's all about the bully club. Okay. And bullying people, that's bullying people to get what you want. Okay. And Trader Green, she's got the loudest mouth in there. Okay. And then this is but it's nothing of substance. Once again, this is all illusions, delusions, things happening beneath the surface. It's all, the moon card is ever changing, happening in the dark of night. The Magician is this idea of, just twisting things to make it fit your narrative. So a lot of, illusions there, not being honest. And then you get, boom, these are our action cards. And these are major action cards. It's like when the sword falls, it is quick, and it's just like racing forward. There is no rational thought behind whatever it is that happens here. So what is this? Are they going to remove Maggot Mike? Well, that just, you saw those cards. So right now, he is serving at the pleasure of the king. That is exactly what that is. Mad King Don serving at his pleasure. And if he doesn't, if Maggot Mike doesn't toe the line, you've got the Mad King here that will absolutely call for his him being removed. So, but I still just want to do 3 cards. Is Maggot Mike going to stay in as the House leader? And with that, people rejoicing, methodical plan forward for our country. These aren't really saying, there may be a lot of threatening for it, but this is not saying that he's going to be that he's not going to be removed. Right now, Trump is happy. There may be some posturing. There may be some threats, especially if he doesn't follow through on some of those promises that he made. But, Trump is going to bail his boy out and say, nope, I want him there. Okay. And then the rest of them, they're going to fall in line. So, that's what that's looking like there at the House. Okay. Now, with the Senate, right now, the filibuster is still in place for most things. I think it's just that CR bill, that continuing resolution, that was going to be, that didn't have to have the filibuster. I want to check on that real quick, that spending bill. Hold on. Let me pause this. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I found here on ABC News, it says that the final, right now, it's resolutions that they're passing, and the final package, if the Republicans can agree on it, will be able to be passed with a simple majority of votes in both chambers. Okay, this article goes on to say the Democrats were powerless to stop the resolution, but they did force votes on a number of amendments, and that was basically so that they could use that in midterms. Was showing how these Republicans voted against, like protecting Medicare and Medicaid and stuff like that. So the Senate, I want to look at the health of the Senate. Okay. Are they going, now it looks like this big spending thing, they're going to be able to do that, but anything else, are they, they're not going to really be able to pass unless they have Democrats join them. So the health of the Senate. victory going forward for the government. And this is also in the spirit of the government. So I wonder, so that spending bill is looking like, and those horrendous cuts, that looks like that's going to go forward. That Queen of Wands again. I'm going to be real interesting to see as this unfolds who this Queen of Wands is. In the past, in some readings, I've been getting this as Pam Bondi. So I don't know really what the Department of Justice would have to do with this. And the reason I say Pam Bondi is because she acts more like a spokesperson for the Department of Justice. She's out there doing press conferences, every other day. And, in the past, Merrick Garland was like, rare would he give an interview, and it was like the Department of Justice speaks through our filings, and this Department of Justice is out there doing everything but speaking through their filings, because their filings are just they have no legal basis for what they're doing. So that's interesting that this comes up with the Senate side here. And it could be also the same thing, like they have such a thin majority that if they want to get anything passed in the Senate, they're going to have to work with Democrats. And I think that's what this is. If they want to get anything passed in the Senate, they have to work with Democrats. And this is like that, they don't really want to, but it's what they're going to have to do. This is a card of a little bit of hesitation. This isn't someone racing off in battle. Like if you look at the different knights, you have the Knight of Swords, and that's just irrational, racing off into battle without even thinking. You have the Knight of Pentacles, and that's a more methodical approach. You have the Knight of Cups, which is, like an offering in friendship going forward. And this is one of, we're going to, a lot of negotiations. Okay. We're going to have to negotiate before we go forward. And we're going to have to negotiate with the Democrats. That's what that is. Okay. And so looking back at the House, they're going to have to negotiate. And, if you've been watching some of the readings with me, you know that this is Mad King Don, the emotional, irrational male in charge here. And he doesn't understand this. He does not understand negotiations. He's just like, give me what I want. And the Senate is not going to be able to give him what he wants. So as far as the health of the Senate, if you look at it like that, that a lot of this stuff is not going to get passed because of needing to negotiate with the Democrats. He is not going to be getting everything that he wants. He's going to be told no. Okay. So that is good, except for, the spending bill that is going to do enough damage the way it is. So what's Trump going to do whenever the Senate doesn't give him what he wants? And as I said, this is going to kind of carry over into the part 2 with this. So I'll just do 3 cards here with this. What's he going to do whenever he doesn't get what he wants from Congress? Make it happen. Find me a way to make it happen. Give me what I want, and I'm going to do it anyway. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting here with that. So I don't want to go too far. I don't want to go too far into this because this is going to be carrying over into the part 2 of this. So right now, what it looks like is that both the House and the Senate can't. If it's something that can pass with just a simple majority, and if they can keep everybody corralled there, then that stuff will go forward. But for some of that bigger stuff, they're going to have to work with the Democrats, especially on the Senate. And so, are we going to be saved from maybe the worst of the worst? Possibly. But that Mad King Don comes up here as not liking to be told no, which we know that, and finding, almost like tell the Justice Department, find me a way to make this happen. Okay. And that is where that kind of folds into the health of our courts. Okay. And the health of the Democratic Party of being able to stay in a united coalition to tell him no and to block him. Okay, so the health of the Republicans overall looks as though they have to work with Democrats. Okay, so that is very good news there. The other thing I want to look at is that some of the Republicans in these swing states, they are seeing what's happening in these like what happened in Wisconsin and what happened in Florida. And I heard it reported that if you're sitting in a swing district or you're sitting in a district that you don't have a 30 plus point advantage, you're not in a safe seat with the Republicans. And so as we start getting closer to midterms, especially, that is going to be weighing on some of their minds. They're going to, so they're going to be looking at, do I stay in power, or, for the long term, or in the short term, do I give Trump what he wants? So I'm going to ask just real quickly, what are the swing state Republicans doing? Are they going to stay in the, in MAGA world there, or are they going to start peeling off, like what we saw with, now, Mitch McConnell's not running for re-election. Susan Collins, considered a moderate, and Lisa Murkowski. So, you're starting to kind of see some of that over in the Senate. We haven't seen that yet in the House, but I'm wondering, are we going to be seeing that, especially as we get closer to midterms? I just, real quick on this, because, midterms are still, sadly, 2 years away, but we're kind of getting an indication of that when it comes to what we saw in Florida and Wisconsin. So as I shuffle, now would be a really great time to hit like on this video. I appreciate it. And also comment on what you think or what your thoughts are on the MAGA world here, and are they going to be able to keep their coalition together? So with these swing state Republicans, when they start seeing their chances of re-election going down the drain, are they going, what are they going to do? So the swing state Republicans, just want to look at that here real quick. They are not happy. They're like, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess if you want to look at it that way, you either, and their constituents are not happy. So who are you gonna, you gotta make somebody happy here. You're either gonna make your constituents happy and stay in power, or you're gonna make Trump happy and lose your seat. I do not feel sorry for these people at all. Okay. And they don't know what to do. It's really up in the air. They're like, what are we going to do? If any of them happen across this video, side with the Democrats. Okay. Do what's right for our country. You know the difference between right and wrong. And your duty is to the Constitution and to our country, not to a party. Okay. And that they, they may try to slow walk things. They may try to, like, let's call for, calmer minds and, a more methodical approach. They're trying to be kind of like a voice of reason in this midst of this madness. Let's take a step back. They want, cooler heads to prevail. This is before that final battle, the 10 of Wands is the completion. This is the, we're not quite there yet. This is taking a step back, learning from your lessons, learning from your mistakes, what has worked, what hasn't worked, that whole thing. And so this is them taking a step back, saying, let's just take a moment, will they slow walk things? Will they, some of them, vote for the Democrats? Yes. But I'm not seeing it in mass quite yet. Completion. They, and going right back here to this very center thing here. Let's come back here. Is, what is their destiny? Is their destiny going to be one of siding with Trump or siding with, the Constitution and the law and what is right for their constituents? Okay. And I kind of got those messed up. And the outcome here is this Ace of Wands. A lot of talk. Okay. They really don't want to have to be forced into making these decisions. I mean, it's like hesitation, don't want to do this. Please don't make us do this, type feeling is what I'm getting. So when it comes push to shove, will they side with the Democrats in stopping Trump from like the worst of this stuff? Will we start seeing a coalition of Republicans, those moderate Republicans speaking out? Kind of building on that. Coming out and, talking, maybe even talking with Democrats about how can we proceed forward, talking within their own caucus of how do we go forward with this, shedding light on this. And also, I think this is going to be coming together with the Democrats. and the betrayal that they're going to feel with the MAGA. Okay, let me just make sure. Is this betrayal with MAGA? Yeah, just the crazy, some of these moderate Republicans at some point are going to want off the crazy train, and they're going to put a stop to this and offer, like partner with the Democrats. Okay, I'm a little surprised by that. Okay, so at some point, when it comes down to it, there will be some of those moderate Republicans that will break rank, and they will side with the Democrats. Now, when is that going to be? What is a line too far for even them to cross? I guess we will be watching that, and we will see. So if I had to say the health of the Republican Party right now is they got a lot of problems. Okay, they have, they can't get things passed in the Senate unless they work with Democrats. The House, if things can, pass with a simple majority, they can do that. But there's going to be some of these Republicans that, are like, no. I mean, even in the House, one of my senators said no to voted with the Democrats on saving Medicaid and Medicare. I'm not sure if Social Security was part of that or not, but I was shocked. And I was like, yeah, he just wants to say, oh yeah, he fought to save. And it's like, no, you cast one vote. You didn't do anything else. But yeah, we're starting to see that a little bit. And I would expect to see that more, especially as we get closer to re-election, to those midterms. And these swing state Republicans are realizing that they will not be voted back in. Okay, so that will be something that I continue to watch. Pretty sure this isn't going to be the last reading I do on this topic. So yeah, thank you for joining me. Subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'll put some other videos up here for you to check out, some of my other videos. And thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next reading.